I want to talk quickly about SWOT analysis. It's a really meaningful form of analysis. And so, if you've looked at some of the analytical aspect of writing videos, some of them have things like stakeholder analysis, the basic foundational analytical principles, the iceberg theory, stuff like that. I might have fishbone or root cause in there somewhere as well, but I haven't done this yet, I don't think. So, SWOT analysis is another one of those meaningful forms of analysis that are really popular in a variety of spaces, especially corporate and business spaces, or anytime you're trying to do forms of institutional analysis. It can be used for marketing, it can be used for a lot of different things. So, it has these components. It's basically strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. Strengths are strengths and weaknesses are considered internal, which is sometimes seen as within an organization. So these are the things that a company might possess within itself. Weaknesses, areas of growth, that kind of thing. So for instance, versus external, opportunities and threats, which would be maybe competitors or something beyond the organization that they don't have maybe as much control over, but can respond to in a meaningful way. So for internal, imagine that whatever you're trying to analyze, say McDonald's is trying to decide whether to expand in a certain region, and so they may look at strengths in that region. That maybe they have a store and they want to have another that's doing well, and they want to have another store that's far enough away, so it won't compete, but close enough that it's that they feel like they can see the trends moving. So maybe strengths of a store that they're trying to expand from is they feel like they've got a good employee base and managerial staff and all of that. Maybe some weaknesses are this location is a little further out, and so the store location itself, where they've bought the property, seems like it's a not as good a location. That's still kind of within the organization. That's one thing you could think about with that, or maybe maybe it's internal, and maybe they have strengths in maybe managerial strengths, but basic crew member strengths. Maybe there's been a lot of overturn, and that's or turnover, and so they've got managers doing a lot of the work because crew members are kind of cycling fast, and that's making it that's a struggle. So then, external might be as they're looking at marketing, maybe they see that, Carl's Jr. or Burger King or Jack in the Box is moving into that area, and it feels like there's more competition. And so that might be a threat. They may also see it as an opportunity, but depending on how it's framed and what problem they're trying to solve. Maybe one part of it is external, might be supply chain. Maybe because of the location, which was one of their personal weaknesses, that causes issues with supply chain, where one of their companies can't ship to that particular location. So now that becomes a threat to their success. But it may offer an opportunity because now they can now they're getting competitive offers with discounts and things like that for a new shipping company for that particular region. So this is how SWOT analysis can work. We look at internal and external strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, things that are helpful, things that are harmful, and this allows us to kind of do a quick analysis of the situation. And so it's great if you're trying to brainstorm or team build. It's not as complex as, say, fishbone diagramming with its various components. And this is something that's got an easier uptake. It's easier to teach people, and it's easier to kind of just throw together and do, because it doesn't have the specialty language that can get confusing when you're talking about fishbone diagramming and fishbone mapping. Another benefit of this that I like is that with SWOT analysis, it's usually seen, like I said, in corporate environments or business environments, and kind of this institutional analysis. But it's also really great as a personal analytical tool, a way of being kind of self-reflective. And so the internal, if we shifted away from organization, we might say the internal is the personal, whereas the external is beyond ourselves, beyond the individual. So my internal, my personal strengths and weaknesses, or struggles or areas of growth, I might be able, we can talk about it in different categories. we could say, in a relationship, or as a writer, or as a student, or as a mathematician, or whatever it is that we're trying to do with the thing we care about, as an employee. So personally, I have these strengths and weaknesses, or whatever. Versus external, which would be, what are opportunities for me to grow, resources that might be beyond myself. So if I'm a student, that might be like, I could go to the tutoring center, or I could ask my peers for help, or I could go to office hours with a professor, or I could look for family support. Then some of those things might be threats. Maybe I absolutely don't have family support, and that keeps feeling like a draw away from my school goals or something like that. Maybe work, while that provides for things, maybe it's a threat to my success as a student because it's competing for my time. So those are those sorts of things. And there have been times, depending on a season, where my family has, my wife, my kids, my mom, whoever it is, has been a supporter and a strengthener. My wife read through novels with me to help encourage me, and my mom did too when I was going through my bachelor's and master's. And then other times when we had kids and I'm like trying to type an essay holding a baby, that's it's not a threat. That's wrong. You know what I mean? But it's something that's external to me that might make it more difficult to be successful. And so, we play with the language a little bit. I love my kids. They're wonderful. Now they help me study as my oldest is 13 at the shooting of this video. So SWOT analysis has meaningful and broad applications. It can help us answer and process through a variety of problems and challenges. And so I encourage you to use it. There are some other cool things we can do with it that I do uniquely in some of my learning communities. We're doing for instance, and so I might do I might do a separate video to talk about those unique applications where we can look at the SWOT as variables in some sort of math equation for trying to process or create some sort of proof or solve a problem or something like that. But for now, SWOT analysis. It's cool. It's broadly applicable. You can bring it into situations to solve significant issues, or you can use it as a personal reflective tool. Hopefully this was meaningful and helpful and that you enjoyed.